What's up, guys? My name is Mikey. Welcome back to the Photos by Mikey podcast. Today, I have an amazing guest, Ellie, on the podcast. So, Ellie, for those that don't know you, can you kind of give our listeners a brief introduction about yourself? Like, how'd you get into photography and what you're doing now?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to kind of tell a little bit of my story and how I started. My name is Ellie B. Chico. And my last name is Burgueno Chico, but my friends call me Ellie B. Chico just to make it easy.
Nice.
I started photography in high school. That's when the passion really hit. Film photography was, what we used to do back then. And by default, I was using Canon. So I've always kind of stuck with Canon. Mm-hmm. It just kind of progressed from there. Both of my parents were into like the family media stuff. My dad used to love to record with his big old, video camera. And my mom was the one with the camera. So they would just family pictures. And so I was always surrounded by that. Obsessively tons of pictures of me until my next brother came along 4 years later. So I remember, being around 7 or 8 years old, carrying my dad's Polaroid and loving just taking the pictures and how the instant gratification of the image coming out, right? Then, we started using little Kodaks, and then we would have to take the film into, the little hubs in the grocery stores, in the parking lot, and just the anticipation of waiting for the photography to come back. Mm-hmm. However, not everything looked so nice, but, it was still exciting. And, it just kind of progressed from there. Like I said, in high school, I took some photography classes and I really enjoyed it. I became the photography president of the club. So it's kind of cool. So I always kind of had a camera on me. In 2010, I'm going to age myself right here. I graduated in 1989. So in 2010 is when I really decided to kind of take my photography a little step further. I used to work for AT&T and working with my coworkers, asking me like, hey, Ellie, can you take pictures? And then birthdays come up, weddings come up. And that's kind of how I got started into the wedding and portrait photography. So I just decided, you know what? I think I really want to start really focusing on this. And little by little, just through experiences of speaking to people, connecting, I had great opportunities and, my confidence started building up a little bit more and more. And, luckily I had a few people that really pushed me to really do it as a career. I always wanted it to be a career, but the confidence was never there. So a few friends in Palm Springs that had art galleries, well, they weren't friends first. I had to go in there and connect with them. And, it was a blessing because they offered me the opportunity to show my work. So I had a couple little art shows with photography. And I paint, acrylic on canvas, that sort of thing. So I was kind of mixed media photography and art. So I was always displaying my work, art and photography. Sure enough, it kind of took off from there. I got my paid gigs working through them. And one of them being Janice Hall. And she no longer is in Palm Springs, but Michael Weems, he is an artist himself. He does more like sculptures, jewelry, all kinds of cool stuff. He still has his gallery in Palm Springs. Oh, wow. He gave me a really good break. He allowed me to, first of all, he hired me to take photography for him. One day he's like, you know what, let me see what you have. So I, showed him a little portfolio. Back then you used to walk in with an actual portfolio. It wasn't digital, right? So he's like, all right, I like what I see. Let's work together. So he decided, you know what, I'm going to give you a project. Let's see where this goes. So he said, I need vintage signs from all over. And I was like, okay, well, how am I going to do this, right? Foothill. What is it? Route 66.
Yeah.
So I decided, okay, I'll start in San Bernardino and then take it all the way down and see what I find. Well, gold mine. This was in 2011.
Okay.
And oh my gosh. So all day, all night. So all the way up in the daytime, all the way back in the nighttime. I was shooting with the Canon Rebel T1i.
Oh, wow.
That's what I started with. And professionally, because I was actually getting paid for the work that I was providing with that. Yeah. So, and like I said, all learning experiences. I believe that hands-on is how you learn. Mm-hmm. Well, for myself, that's how I learn best. And I presented, the images to Michael, and he selected like 16 of them. He's like, okay, these are the ones I want to work with. So he ended up turning these images into like huge prints on some kind of a plastic wrap or something. And he collaged them onto vintage car parts. Oh, wow. So these are vintage signs. Yeah. Collaged onto these big pieces of, like, say, a car hood, a vintage car hood, or doors. He turned them into wall art.
Oh, wow.
Amazing pieces. And he had a exhibit for me, went all out, margarita machine, servers, you name it. Wow. I was like, this isn't real. This is for me. Are you kidding me? So all my work is displayed on his walls in his gallery, and tons of people came, and, again, the confidence started going up a little bit more. And I was like, wow, I like this, I like that I can do this. And, getting paid. Right. So I was like, okay, I like this. So I just proceeded, and I continued, and I never looked back.
That's awesome.
One of the things that I've always had an issue is with kind of speaking in front of people and doing this. But little by little, I started able to kind of come out of my shell with that. And I knew that I had to if I wanted to network and connect with people. So, it did take me a good decade to finally get to where I am today. Yeah. And then it just kind of went from there. So now
That's awesome. Because now you're ambassador for Canon. You're an ambassador for KorrinArt. You're ambassador for a lot of the amazing companies. Another one that really kind of like intrigues me is the flying dress. So for you guys don't know or haven't seen it, it's basically like a very long dress, right? How long can it get?
So the dresses are the train of the dress is about 15 to 18 feet long.
Holy smokes.
So it's very long. Yeah. And, I came across it at WPPI maybe like 4 years ago. I wish I knew who the photographer was because I would love to give you credit. But I don't know who it was. It was when they were doing the competitions, and it was just a picture that I seen, and it was a dress, and I believe it was at the beach. And I just that was like the spark that lit me up for flying dresses. Right. I was like, wow. In 2010, I didn't know that it was going to be a thing, but I have a picture from 2010 that I bought some long red material, and I just wrapped it around the girl, and it now looks like a flying dress. Oh. So but even back then, I had an eye for something like this. So when I came across that image again, I was just like, I have to find these dresses. Like, I'm not a seamstress. I don't know how to create this, but I'm going to figure it out. So, digging social media now. I found Korrin on Etsy. Yeah. And I bought the dress. I was actually starting with another friend who was there with me, Travis, which I miss. He used to be my photography assistant, but he's on to better things now. We were supposed to start a little flying dress business, but then it's kind of like, I don't know what happened. He just decided, you just go with it. And I was like, okay. I said, because I ain't looking back. So I just started with the dress. I received the dress. I was in love with the dress. I took pictures. I was like, I'm going to connect with this lady because what's the worst she can say? Right. No, I don't need you, or no, I don't, whatever. I don't like your photography. I didn't know what she would say, but I had to take a chance. Gotcha. I reached out to her. I sent her my pictures, And I said, I would love to collab with you. If you ever, in any future need a photographer, I'd love to work with you. And that right there just opened up a door for, first of all, our friendship, because we're very close. I love her dearly. And we kind of bounce off of each other with inspiration and ideas. And it just kind of went from there.
That's awesome. And when did you connect with her?
About 4 years ago, or maybe 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it was shortly after I came across the image when I first saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing what you do with the artistic side of even the settings you have. You take these models or your clients to amazing locations. I mean, I think you did a workshop recently in Hawaii, right?
I did.
Yeah.
I'm connected with Canon. So I'll kind of give you a little brief story on how that worked. I'm very inspired by doing my personal creative shoots. I feel that by doing so, it's really helped me with technique, more knowledge and wisdom when it comes to the craft. So I do invest a lot of time on my education by simply, reaching out to models, or just the general public. If I see a pretty girl, now I have the guts to be like, wow, you're beautiful. I'm a photographer. Let's do something.
Right.
So, just by talking to people, connecting, it gives me the opportunity to work with different ladies. I'd love to work with more men if possible. Maybe not in a flying dress, but so how Canon started is I started posting, my creative personal work. A friend of mine, Sal, he's also a photographer. He was doing a series of Mad Max photo shoots once a year. And I was always really intrigued by that whole post-apocalyptic kind of vibe. So I kept bugging him. I was like, hey, invite me to one of your shoots. And eventually, on the 4th year, he's like, yeah, come on down. Let's do this. So finally, I get to photograph, the whole Mad Max series that he had put together. And he had a whole team of models that are very into their whole vibe, right? And friends with those rat rod cars. And I mean, he had it done really nice. So I do these pictures. And me, I'm all over social media. It's like I'm in everybody's face 24/7. So there's a photography group that I posted some of those pictures, and they had been there for a while. And this Canon rep, Stacy, she commented on the picture. Now, granted, I didn't know who she was at first. I just thought it was, a random photographer or something, and she complimented on it. And I believe she asked if there was more on the series, and I was like, absolutely. So, privately, I sent her a couple more, and, we just chit-chat. I love just talking, geeking out on photography and all that. So we're talking, and, she presents this absolutely beautiful picture in my mind, and I'm like, yeah, right, this ain't real. Canon really reaching out to me? Come on. I'm like, I've been bamboozled once, but not a second time. So it's so funny because I love her dearly. But I did a little search on her because I couldn't believe it. I honestly couldn't believe that Canon was looking for a rep, or a photographer to represent. Like, how?
Is this through Facebook?
This is through Facebook, yes. So I was like, she was legit, 100%. And I was like, okay, this is a blessing. This is one of those blessings that you don't even pray for, but God's like, all right, I'm going to give you a little extra.
Right.
So I was like, wow. Okay. So then we set up my first workshop, and I believe it was maybe 3 years ago now. It was during WPPI at BNC Camera in Vegas. So we did the first workshop there with the flying dresses. And then it just progressed. So now, it's kind of like, I'm not really an ambassador for Canon, but I'm more like a content creator for Canon.
Oh, gotcha.
So yeah, that's kind of like the relationship I have with Canon now. It's like they hire me to do workshops.
That's amazing.
To create content for photographers or just, for fun, portfolio building, for knowledge, for wisdom. I mean, I give all my tips and tricks at these workshops. And when it's through Canon, it's absolutely free.
That's awesome.
So,
I know some workshops you have to kind of pay, right? Depending on who's there or what they're offering. So tell us about like when you have these workshops, like are you hands-on or do you give examples? Like walk us through like how you would give a workshop for Canon.
so once, all the advertisement is in and,
Mm-hmm.
the day of, we get there. I do about a 45-minute presentation on my work, kind of PowerPoint style. And, there's a lot of Q&A. And after that, we just basically go out into the field wherever Canon rented the space.
Right.
And we'll have anywhere from, 2 to 3, 4 models sometimes. And we get photographers from all over the place, anywhere from 75 to 100 photographers show up.
Wow.
So there's a lot of photographers, but there's plenty of time for everybody to, capture some images. And then I kind of walk through, I hang out with each model,
Right.
throughout the whole 3 hours, because it's 3 hours of photo walk.
Yeah.
And I'll show them, how to photograph the dress to get this, certain look or this angle to get the white, shot, how to toss the dress. So that kind of that sort of thing.
Right. Something like your techniques and how you capture. That's awesome because, we see the photos online, but it's like, okay, how did she create that, right? And that's kind of awesome to like have you, explain your process on how you capture that. And one of the other brands or companies that I also am a big fan of is MagMOD. Is it MagMOD or
MagMOD?
MagMOD. And I use it myself. Like almost every wedding I use it. I think it's one of the most like innovative companies out there just because it just makes things so efficient if you're a photographer. So how did you connect with them?
Well, again, I believe that using the product and believing in the product, it shows through your photography as well. And, I credit the companies of the product that I use quite often just because I really love the product. But I believe that, they were seeing my work on the MagMOD community page. And I believe that's how they reached out to me and asked, if I wanted to be part of the company.
That's awesome. And then
not part of the company, but part of the ambassadorship.
Right. And do you always use it for like your shoots, like for the flying dress shoots?
Every time. I'm a MagModder. Yeah, all their diffusers, all their mag gels, everything that they make, the mag grids, the mag spheres, everything. I use it all the time. Not everything all at once, but for different scenarios, I carry it with me all the time.
That's awesome.
So I have a studio set, and then I have, my portable set.
Awesome. For those that are really interested in like your like setup and like your cameras that you bring for the flying dress photo shoot, like what's your go-to like camera and lens when you take these photos?
Well, the Mark IV has been that's a beast of a camera.
Yeah.
I love that camera. I still use that camera. And then I have the R5.
Okay.
So those are the two cameras that I carry all the time. I have the Canon, the 14 millimeter, and then I have the Canon 1635. And then I only have one RF lens right now. It's the 7200, which it's an absolutely amazing lens. Everything that Canon makes is absolutely amazing. But I tend to shoot more wide because I want to be able to capture, more of the environment and, the dresses. They're so big. I don't want to crop them out because I need a wide lens for that. But not to say that you can't, use a 7200, but you still can. It's just I love the detail. I love showing that in my editing. So wide angles for me are important.
Awesome. Yeah, because if you said the train could be as long as like 18 to 20 feet.
No, 15 to 18 feet.
15 to 18. So that's pretty long. So especially if you're trying to capture the environment and then like the train, you need something pretty wide, like a 14 millimeter. That's awesome. And then in terms of the lighting, like, can you give us some tips on like what you use for lighting?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I started using, first the Canon flashes, the 600, what is it, the RT?
RT.
Yeah. So I had two of those. Those are the first that I started with off-camera flash. And I love them. I still have them. I still use them occasionally, on camera when I have to. However, I started using the Flashpoint Evolve 200s. And then I had the opportunity to use, the Godox 200s. And now I'm using Gikoto, the GT 200s.
Oh, nice.
So it's a combination of all three.
Yeah.
And I love them equally. They've been very dependent. And they're very portable. So I use those. That's my lighting system right now.
Okay. That's awesome.
And everything with MagMOD diffusers right now.
That's all. Yeah, I could imagine, because if you're having multiple lights, right? Like the Evolve 200 is pretty lightweight. I mean, bringing a bigger light is probably not the most ideal situation, especially the locations you go to.
Yeah, I do have the 400. So with the Flashpoint system, I do have the 100s, the 200s.
Yeah.
400.
400, yeah.
But the 400 I tend to use more for studio. I have taken it out to location, but it can be pretty heavy. A lot of times I'm by myself too, so I don't have an assistant, so it's tough. If that one fell, it would hurt me more than, if 200 fell, which has happened many times.
Yeah, depending if it's windy or there's like a storm coming. Awesome. Well, let's talk about a little bit, like, maybe, because we have a lot of listeners here that are maybe brand new to photography, and you have a ton of experience, and you've kind of like, you've shot a little bit of everything, right? You've done weddings, you've done your own creative art. So if anyone wants to get into like the industry of becoming a professional photographer, like, what would you give them as a best advice to start with? Like, would you recommend them shadowing someone or taking a course online? Like, what's your recommendation?
Highly recommend investing in your education for whatever craft it is, not just photography, but for anything that has to do with something you're passionate about. Invest in your education. Definitely shadow a photographer that you admire and reach out to them. You never know if they need an assistant. And guess what? You're going to be helping, somebody that you admire working with, So what I did is I opened up an internship for, up and coming photographers that wanted to, learn more. And that's kind of like we help each other out. Like, I'll give you my, decade of knowledge, and you give me your time by holding my stand and watching how I work.
Right.
So I got a couple assistants now, throughout the Inland Empire and LA. So depending on where I'm going to shoot, I have somebody to reach out to. Granted, they're not available all the time, but, that's how you, as a photographer that's starting out, that is wanting to get into photography, definitely helping out another photographer to get your feet wet, to understand the pressure when it comes to weddings, to understand, what it is that you need to take with you, as far as gear. I mean, lighting is so important. That's the one thing that I wish I would have learned right away.
That was going to be my next question, is like, if you look back 10 years ago, like, was there anything that you kind of regret not learning right away?
Yes, off-camera lighting.
Okay.
I love natural light photography. Like, I do it at every session. There's a portion of me doing, natural light, but I always move towards off-camera light. Even in the middle of the day, I still want to use my lights, because the depth and the dimension that you get from your photography is just, it stands out. And ultimately, as photographers, we want to stand out if we want to turn this into a career and make it a professional career. So we have to stand out, a little bit. So I highly recommend learning off-camera lighting right away.
Yeah, I mean, especially I think if you do weddings, right? Because, I know a lot of people say they're a natural light photographer, but with weddings, you're going to have different situations where the light is very dark. Like, some venues are, hardly any light. There may be some like, string lights here and there, or if the venue is going to be like outdoors, right? And there's not enough ambient light. Yeah, you're right. I do recommend it also for a lot of photographers to start learning off-camera flash or even on-camera flash, because you're going to run into those situations, right? And you can't provide the best quality work if it's going to be grainy or, going to be very dark in other situations. So let me ask you another question in regards to, like, style, right? Because I know there's so many different styles out there. How did you gravitate to your style? Like, did someone influence you, or like, where did you get your inspiration from?
That's a great question because I went through so many phases of what style I wanted to be looked at as a photographer. Like, oh, that's an Ellie shot. But what was happening is that I was following photographers that I admired their work, and I was like, oh, I really like that style, and I would try to mimic it. And then I would find another photographer. Oh, I really like that one. So it was a whole combination of different styles that I liked. Like I couldn't pick one.
Right.
And it took many years to finally come to the point where I am now, where I'm not sure that I even have a style, to be honest. But I definitely have a look that I go for. So as far as, focusing in on one style, I don't think it's business savvy because you're going to have a bunch of different clientele. So they're all going to want something different. So why not master every style and then just do what your heart tugs at for, the pictures that you post? That's what I do. Obviously not when I turn in an album, all their pictures don't look like every single shot that I post.
Right.
They get a series of, a handful of pictures that do look like that. But for the most part, it's your basic regular style. If it's daytime, I'm not going to give you a dramatic night shot. So it just depends. My albums consist of a series, but it's still a story. So it'll tell a story from the beginning to the end. And you can see the natural light into the middle of the day and then to the evening.
That's awesome. Yeah, I totally agree with you too, because I think when you first start out in photography, maybe wedding photography, you do like, especially with social media nowadays, I mean, you just see so much content out there that it's like, okay, you see people with like the vintage look, maybe I still see black and white like photographers out there. And so for new photographers, like, what would you recommend for them, like for them to stand out, right? If they're getting to the wedding photography business, like what would you tell them in terms of like helping them stand out from everybody else?
Well, for one, I would recommend that you assist other photographers at weddings and then just watch what they do. There's like, I don't know, 7 or 8 phases in a wedding, from starting to get ready, the details, and so on and so on. If you can tell your story from the beginning to the end, it gives you, like an avenue per phase so that you can divide the storyline. And then when you combine it at the end, it all matches. But I think that having experience with weddings is more important than knowing the phases first.
Right.
You don't want to just jump into, oh, I'm a wedding photographer now, hire me, and then disappoint the couple if you're not prepared. So I think being a second or even just an assistant to photographers is very important.
Yeah, I 100% believe in that because I think you learn so much from someone that has been doing it for so long, and you can learn their approach, their strategy, because we all know weddings are so different. Every single wedding is so unique to each couple, and there's so many different situations you run into. And if you just don't have the experience, like you're gonna get kind of flustered, right? You don't know what to do, and then you can't provide the best service to that client. But in terms of the wedding photography business, let's kind of talk about that. So are there any misconceptions that you think people get wrong about wedding photographers, like from like the industry? Give you an example, like top of my head is like, what, like I hear this all the time that, oh, wedding photographers could sometimes be kind of like too mean on the wedding day, or, they're because they're telling everybody what to do. Is there anything that you want to clear up regarding wedding photographers, about misconceptions?
Well, I believe to be a wedding photographer, you have to have some kind of aggressiveness in you, because if you don't, your wedding, they could fall apart if you don't
Right.
have a good wedding coordinator to help you out as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that yeah, I just tried. You need to know what you're doing for a wedding. I just, the misconception. What I get, is
Uh-huh.
probably like, oh, just I'm hiring you for these,
Mm-hmm.
to be my wedding photographer, and I like your work. Boom. Well, it's more than that. You have to build rapport with your client. That's why
Right.
your engagement session is so important. If they don't want to do an engagement session, at least meet up with them in person, go to lunch, meet them face to face. I think
Mm-hmm.
I'm so old school when it comes to that I just feel there's something that happens, the interaction in person
Gotcha.
versus, behind a screen or on the telephone or a message. And right away, you'll know if you're going to click with that
Mm-hmm.
client. So I think that if you build rapport with your client, the wedding day will be a lot less, there won't be as much pressure because you're not meeting them for the first time on the wedding day. You already know them and you communicate. You constantly let them know, keep them excited.
Mm-hmm.
Let them know that you're as excited as they are for their day, even if it's still a year away. I always reach out to my clients. I find out when like their birthdays are, or, if it's a holiday, I'll send them
Right.
a holiday, Merry Christmas or whatever the case is. But I let them know that I'm still thinking of them, every
Gotcha.
single customer. And then you become friends with them, and this is a business, so
Mm-hmm.
you want to make them your friends. You
Right.
want to be their family photographer moving forward. That's how you stay in business, by their referrals. They're going to get married. If they don't have kids, they may have kids. Then now you have a maternity. Now you have a newborn, and that's another thing about, the genres of photography. If you want to be a professional photographer, you don't have to just stick to one.
Mm-hmm.
At least and this is my opinion, I
Okay.
don't believe that you have to stick to just one genre of photography. Like, if you're a wedding photographer, that's great, master it. But then throughout the years, you'll get more experience and then you can evolve and then now do other, photography types of sessions. I feel like I'm very versatile with
Mm-hmm.
everything. I've done weddings, I've done newborns, everything that comes along with photography, I've
Yes.
done it. I do product photography. I, I mean, I try to touch everything when it comes to photography.
Yeah, seeing your
Uh,
work, I mean, you seem like you do a little bit of everything. And I think that plays to your advantage, right? Because it gives you so much experience. I mean, it gives you like perspective of all kinds of the genres in photography. Because I do hear this a lot. Like when I first was starting out, like people was just telling me like, get into wedding photography and just stick with wedding photography, and that's how you're gonna get better. But then over the years, I realized like, well, eventually, like my wedding clients are gonna ask me for family photos or newborn photos, and at first I was kind of scared because like I'm not experienced in doing that. But it makes sense, like what you're saying, like it gives you another advantage because now you can understand like how these other genres helps you on the wedding day, right?
Correct. And not only that, not only will your business succeed, um, but the lighting situation in each type of session is
Mm-hmm.
also different. So now you're also learning different techniques for everything. So you're prepared, when it comes to lighting, when it comes to the type of photography that you're going to be doing. It's like, okay, that's what I'm doing. That's what I need. This
Right.
is the gear I need for this. Newborn photography is a lot different than product photography. So you're teaching yourself as you're learning new genres of photography as well.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Let's talk a little bit about social media because I know you're very active on social media. I see you post almost every day on
No.
on MagMOD Facebook groups. But so give us some tips on like how a photographer kind of can, you know, put themselves out there on social media. Like, what's your advice for like younger photographers for social media?
Well, definitely reach out. There's a lot of misconception about reaching out to companies, reaching out to photographers. Like some people say like, oh, you're just, begging to be seen or whatever the case is. I've learned throughout the years that has a little bit to do with pride. And I try to put pride to the side and then just go with the flow because you never know when that door is going to open that you knocked on. I do it all the time. If I'm working with a product that I really like now, guess what? I'm going to be tagging that company all the time.
Right.
And then eventually they say like, who is this person tagging us all the time? They actually say they like it. I don't know. But then, they reach out and like, you know what? We like what you're doing. We'd like to invite you to be an ambassador. Boom. Like it happens. And, I've been very blessed that way that I learned to not be so, I humble myself with this, and the opportunities come to me. But you do have to do the work. You have to keep knocking. You have to keep reaching out, networking, and getting out of that comfort zone of, like just sitting there and hoping.
Yeah, and I hear that a lot. Because, if you look back 10 years ago, social media was not as big as it is now. Like, millions of people are on Facebook and Instagram, and it must have been pretty hard back then, right? I don't know what, I think back in 2010, was Facebook still around? Or I don't think so, right? Or I know Instagram, I think, started around that time, but it just wasn't as big as it is now. So now, like, you have Twitter, you have Instagram, Facebook, you have different platforms to share your work, which is a lot easier now. Because if social media wasn't around, like, how would you market yourself, right? Would you create flyers and just knock on doors? But now you can literally be on your phone and connect with these brands and products and companies right from your phone.
It's so much easier now. As I mentioned when we first started the conversation here, this was in 2010 or 11 when I was literally walking in to galleries, speaking to the owners of the galleries. Hey, I'm a photographer, and that took a lot. It took a lot of guts to
courage.
do. Yes, because first of all, there's no confidence there, and I'm just like, throw me a crumble, like,
you're just starting out, right?
Yeah,
this is like the beginning.
But now it's like there's so many, there's so many photographers in our community that are willing to pay it forward. Back then, we didn't have what we have now. Like, my goal is to continue, educating myself in the craft and passing it, to new and upcoming photographers that want to learn that. Well, first of all, to those that like my work, I'll teach you what I know, what I've learned through my experiences, through my adventures. Like, I'm willing to share.
Right.
And the education part is more important to me now as I'm getting older. And I love to share that. I love seeing the same passion in young photographers that I still feel. And I want to keep that flame burning for them, So if you hear about me having a Canon workshop, go. Because one, it's free.
Yeah.
And two, you're going to get a lot of information from me if you want, to hear about it. And then I am having personal workshops where I do, one-on-one workshops, just you and me, and we just walk around, talk. You learn from me. We do photo walks. I have models for you. I have dresses for you. It's a whole, portfolio building for you as well. Anyway, and I have other workshops coming up too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later. I know you have a workshop in August. Let's talk about what's next for you. Like, down the line, are you working any new projects right now that's kind of interesting?
Well, I kind of just touched on that subject. Okay. Yeah, I'm not doing as many weddings anymore. I'm marketing myself more for the education part. So workshops is my future. I plan to set up amazing, over-the-top scenes for you, for, whatever photographer wants to pay a small fee to learn for myself. I have so much to offer and so many techniques that I've learned in the last decade that took me a decade to learn
right.
that I will provide to you in, in one day. So definitely workshops. My goal is to also just teach, my photographer community a little bit more of the spiritual side that I've had with photography as well.
That's awesome. Currently, is there anybody right now that's inspiring you, like specifically in terms of like photography?
Oh my gosh, there's so many good photographers out there. Well, Mikey, I always look at your stuff.
I appreciate that. I'm honored.
You have a very classic, beautiful look to your photography. So yeah, I admire your work very much. And I'm not just saying that because we're here. I do. I like to. I'm being genuine. Like I really admire your work. And there's other photographers. It's like I like you because you do natural light. I like this one because they do off-camera flash or something. Neil Redfern.
Oh yes.
From Flashmasters. I have the opportunity to be an ambassador for them as well.
Wow.
And I really love his eye.
Yeah, his artistic point of view is amazing because he just has a different look than a lot of people, and I think he also uses a lot of like off-camera flash too, right? And he just makes it so different.
Yeah, and I'm a photographer that loves to incorporate just objects, toys, anything that I can to create something different from the image. I want to take something ordinary and turn it into something extraordinary.
Yeah, let me ask you about that because I saw one recent photo. I think it was a flying dress, and you had balloons, I believe. And I'm like, how did you create that photo, like with all those different balloons? I know there's probably a little Photoshop, but like, walk us through how you created that.
Okay.
Photo.
So the whole balloon series started because, as I mentioned before, as photographers, we need to stand out, do something different, do something that just like creates a question in your head, like, how the heck did she do that?
Yeah.
Or how did that even happen? Well, literally, it's a whole project because, I talk to whether it's the model for marketing or it's a client, because I've already had several clients that wanted to do the balloon series. So I walk them through the project and basically it says, okay, what kind of environment do you want? Do you want a beach? Do you, once they tell me what they want, then I give them the realistic expectations.
Right.
Okay, if you want a balloon, this is what I'm going to suggest because we can't do it at the beach. It's too windy. Yeah. We can't do it here, so I have to walk them through, but I have to let them tell me what they want first to see if I can provide them this vision with the balloons. So, I buy the helium tank, I get the balloons, we talk about the outfits, we talk about the colors, time management. I tell them, okay, this is going to take part, half of your photo shoot is going to take part in one location because we can't keep moving the balloons around. So the expectations are super important to lay out to the client when it comes to these shoots because there's a lot of before work that I have to set up for the scene and then I shoot. Basically, we blow up the balloons. I tie them to weights and we pray for no wind. Sometimes, it's a little windy, but most of the time I'm able to get the balloons to just float and they are tied with the ribbon.
Got it.
And some are higher, some are lower. So I make a whole scene.
Yeah.
And then in post, there's a lot of editing to do because I clean up all the ribbon, the weights. Yeah. Sometimes, it's crossing over the dress and I have to fix that. So it's a lot of work. But the end image is always something that the client is just like, wow, they love it. And it's balloons for crying out. I mean, it's just balloons.
It's amazing.
But they love it, and it's a little bit different than what you normally see. So I'm trying to make that a little bit of like a Ellie shot.
Yeah, I mean, I see it. When I see that, it's like that's Ellie, because it's very unique, and it's tied into like your style, and I've never seen it before. And I'm sure you'll create more like creative shots over the years. But so like when you, I know you're a very creative person, but like, is there, besides other photographers, is there any other inspirations or anything that inspires you when you create these like images? Like, do you get inspired by like books or like other people besides photographers? Like, what other inspirations comes to you?
Well, for starters, I'm very inspired by color. A burst of color will trigger something in my brain. I don't know. And then my brain just starts rolling. I have ideas, and then it becomes a thing. But color is big for me, which is funny because all through high school, I was all gothic and it was nothing but black. I know. But now color is very inspiring to me. Movies that are very colorful. I mean, I'm watching the movie, but I'm over here thinking, okay, this is my next project. Like, I'm thinking of what I'm going to do with photography. Locations, driving around. I'll see a location and I'll be like, oh, that's a great location. I think I'm going to start doing, it always has something to do with fashion and my flying dresses now.
Yeah.
My mind takes me instantly to that, my creative shoots, which keeps my heart alive for photography. But before all this inspiration, I didn't seem to have that fire in me that I do now. I believe that once I started getting more spiritual with God, I feel like the blessings and the opportunities, the visions, everything just started coming more vibrant and alive for me. So I do want to give God all glory.
That's awesome. Absolutely. Let's touch base on like what you said earlier too about sometimes when you see someone on the street or whatever, and you literally like walk up to them and you tell them, "Oh, you look amazing," or whatever you want to say. But like what do you typically like? Do they get you inspired too when you see someone on the street and like, "Oh, you look amazing. Can I do a photo shoot with you?"
Okay, I don't do it all the time. I'm not a freak or a weirdo. But when I'm so there's levels of inspiration that happened with me.
Yeah.
I'll be inspired. I'm like, wow, she would be a great model for photography.
Gotcha.
Or, wow, she's got a really unique look to her. Like, maybe I should go talk to her.
Gotcha.
Like, I don't know. Do you have people talking to you in your mind? So it just depends. If I'm at obviously if they're just walking by, I'm not going to stop them.
Yeah.
But if I'm sitting down at a coffee shop, or mostly at a coffee shop, at a restaurant, I won't, engage in somebody, interrupt them or anything. But it's mostly just, people watching, maybe just sitting down, eating an ice cream or something, people watching. I'm like, hey, or, just, but yeah, if I feel that something happens where my gut's like, you better go talk to her or you're going to miss this opportunity. It's like, okay, is that the Holy Spirit talking to me? Like, I better do this or what? So, yeah, I do tend to do that. My husband thinks I'm nuts. But, those are the type of opportunities that you don't want to miss. You have to go with your gut sometimes.
Yeah, that's amazing. I sometimes do see people, but sometimes like I know I'm kind of like a little bit introvert sometimes when it comes to like talking to people, but now like because you inspire me as well. Like, man, maybe if I see someone that like would be amazing in my vision of a photo shoot, like, I mean, if I don't ask them, I'm gonna miss out. What if they say yes, right? What if I'm not gonna miss anything? So, yeah, that's amazing. I didn't realize you actually do that. But
one thing I'll add is, if they're very, I don't know if this is a correct or proper way to say it, but if they're fashion forward, they're very artsy looking,
right?
They won't say no.
Right. If they already have that look, right?
Or when we're doing photo shoots, when we're at the beach, if we have a camera in our hand, most people will be like, oh, they're honored that you would even walk up to them and ask them anything. So it's not weird, especially if you have a camera, because they're like, oh, that's a photographer. So it's easier to engage the conversation.
That makes total sense. It'd just be kind of weird if you don't have any camera in your hand. You walk up, oh, you look amazing, and like I don't want to be a creep. You know what I mean? Especially for a guy, like
yes,
walking up to a woman. But let's talk about some of the amazing locations you've been to. Has there been one location that stands out over the years?
Wow, that's tough because there is many locations. I mean, there's a ton here in Riverside.
Yeah.
I love my Riverside.
Well, let's talk about Hawaii, because I know we talked about that, and you had a workshop, and actually I was in the same island you were, but I was busy with helping with my family. But how was that experience, like hosting a workshop in Hawaii?
Well, surreal to start. Yeah. Canon's been very wonderful, with providing. And when they asked me if I would, travel, would you do a workshop in Hawaii? I'm like, are you kidding me? Really? Yeah, let's do it. And it's so funny because it was right after WPPI. I had hosted a workshop out there as well. And I actually got really sick.
Oh, no.
It was like a bad sinus cold. So I was really sick doing my workshop, and it was really cold. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, in 2 days I have to be in Hawaii, and I have to host a workshop out there. And how am I going to do it? Well, through prayer. On the plane, I started feeling a little bit better. Going to Hawaii. And then once we got there, I rested that whole day that I got there because I knew the next day was my workshop. And I was like, I have to get better. So yeah, luckily I was a little bit better. Canon reserved an iconic location in Hawaii that's never been used for a workshop or photo shoots or anything. So she really went out of her way to try to get this workshop to happen there. Beautiful location. The amazing hospitality and all of the photographers that showed up, I was wowed because I'm thinking, nobody even knows me in Hawaii. Who's going to want to go? However, there are other photographers that do flying dresses out there. Korrin, she supplies dresses to worldwide. She sends them all over the place. So I think there's 2 that do flying dresses out in Hawaii. So I'm thinking, well, they may or may not have heard of flying dresses. But yeah, I had like 100 photographers showed up.
Oh my God.
There was a lot. The classroom was pretty, there was half of the photographers that showed up were in the classroom.
Wow.
So, I do my presentation. I actually had the Miss Hawaii, the prior year Miss Hawaii as one of the models, and another beautiful young lady as well. I had 2 models for that one. And after the presentation, we kind of divide the groups, and I go back and forth and, just talk to them, Q&A, and just, I'm very engaged in all my workshops. I try to provide as much opportunity for each individual to get at least one wow shot for their portfolio, because, there are so many photographers and we are limited to, 3 hours. Right. So you know how time goes by so quick. But it was amazing. Everybody was just so nice. I made friends out there. They're like, when are you coming back? I was like, well, come talk to Canon. But Pro Camera Hawaii, they were absolutely amazing. I love them. And they did a great job with, helping out, putting the workshop together. So, it does take a team. It's not just me, it's Canon really steps it up for these workshops.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's the biggest workshop you've ever had?
The biggest? Wow.
Was it the flower fields?
That one was big. How
many people showed up?
About, that I think it's about the same.
Okay.
It's about the same. I've had some in San Diego. I think San Diego was actually bigger than more photographers showed up for the San Diego one. But the flower field one was, I think, one of the more extravagant locations because it's the flower fields. If you guys haven't been to the flower fields, wow.
Amazing.
Yeah. And it was amazing to see all the photographers. And there was even nuns and that joined the workshop.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And my favorite part, and I appreciate every photographer that shows up, However, it was the little ones, well, I call them little ones or high schoolers, that were so excited because it was their first time doing like a workshop and engaging with flying dress. They were just wowed. And my heart was so full with that. Just seeing the passion, it kind of reminded me of me. It's like, wow, these are the opportunities that I wish we had, when we first started. And I'm just so grateful that I'm able to now provide that for the younger generation of photographers. Like it really fulfills me. And that's something that I want to pursue. I made a connection with the high school teacher of these students.
Wow.
So hopefully soon we're going to be doing a project so that I could start, talking to the younger photographers that are in high school.
That's so awesome because when I was in high school, I was in photography, but I couldn't imagine myself like I didn't realize there was like a industry, right, of professional photographers. Like I didn't realize you can make pretty good, decent income from photography. So like, what would your advice be for like a high school student, that may be interested, or they may want to go to college, like, or take a different route? Like, what's your advice for those high school students really wanting to get into photography and maybe making it a career?
Well, I would strongly suggest that they also take a business course because it's not just the photography part, it's also the business portion. If you want to make it a career and you want it to be a successful photography career, then you need to know business and marketing. I think those are just as important as knowing your technique. And that's something that I hate to admit, but I lack at. I'm not your, $1 million photographer. I make a humble living and I'm completely satisfied with that. Do I want more money? Sure. But I think that I do photography more because it's a passion and it just fills my soul more than my pocket.
Right.
So please continue hiring me though.
Yes.
But, if I can take something from photography for myself, and it's okay that if you're into photography to make money, that's perfectly fine as well. Obviously there's nothing wrong with that. But for myself, I really love the art of it more. Unfortunately, my husband would be like, get a job. I do it because the passion is so much for myself. Without photography, the only thing I have left is God and my husband and my family.
That's amazing.
Like I need photography to feel a little bit of me.
Of course, absolutely. I think it's amazing that you can make an income from photography because it's an art, right?
Yes.
And it's like, as artists, it's like amazing that people would hire us or pay us to take, their photos, their family photos, wedding photos, or whatever project it may be. And it's still, even though like it's 2023 now, it's still amazing, like with all the technology, right? Because the new thing that's coming out is the AI, right? I don't know if you've played around with AI, but I've kind of got interested in it because I want to make sure I'm kind of ahead of the game. And I know there's a lot of software now where you can even just input like text and tell it what to create, which is amazing. But what's your thoughts on AI affecting the photography industry?
Well, I kind of have mixed emotions about it. I don't, as of yet, I don't use it for my photography.
Okay.
I played with it, yes, and it is truly amazing and a little scary too. However, I like to put them in two different boxes because AI is amazing for an artist that just wants to create. It's amazing. It's an amazing tool. And go forward with it. However, don't pass it on as something different than AI.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to do creative art and just say, this is an AI project, let it be known. Because, I mean, at the end, you're only fooling yourself, if you try to pass it on as something different. Now, will AI aid in our photography? Absolutely. It's become an easier tool to clean up photography.
Mm-hmm.
And for that reason, I definitely encourage it, because why do you want to waste more time using a tool that takes longer to remove the diffuser and the stand, for example? If you want to, add something to your image, then the photography now is a mixed media image.
Yeah.
It's not full photography.
Exactly.
So I'm open arms with AI, but I would like to keep a little division, especially when it comes to contest. If you're going to use AI, well, then it should be separated from regular photography, because then I don't think it's fair.
Right. It should be clear that you used AI to enhance your photography, because I know there's some software called like Midjourney. There's a couple other ones where literally you don't even need like an image. You can just type in the text. It'll create like a portrait for you, which is amazing, right? Like what you were saying, it does improve our ability to edit, which is great. Like if you're doing wedding photography and you can just fill in like, oh, there's a trash can, let me just take that out. It'll just save us so much more time. But I do get where you're coming from, because I think for new photographers that are maybe getting to this industry now, what I kind of feel is that they may get into AI and then they lack the knowledge or the practical skills of the actual work, right, of photography. And they don't realize, like, you still have to do the work. And I think maybe it's still good for you to do the work and then eventually start implementing some AI into your, into your like editing style or whatever. But I think you may kind of hinder your progress in terms of your own creativity if you start just using AI right away, right? Because it is a tool. It's not going to create everything for you. It's not going to fix everything for you. It's just going to improve the way you're doing things right now. Because I do use some of the software, like there's some AI that helps sharpen the image. There's some AI that helps like for example, like Photoshop and Luminar. Like Luminar it has sliders to like just increase like the smoothness of the skin. It's crazy.
Luminar?
Yeah, Luminar AI. It's incredible what it can do. Like there's sliders for like whitening the eye. It's just one tap. It's within seconds you can do that.
So it's similar to Photoshop then?
Very similar, but it already has the actual sliders,
like preset
exactly for what Photoshop does.
Okay.
It's not 100% like perfect, because sometimes it's over the top and you can tell like it's too much. But yeah, like it can change the sky within like seconds. Like you can even add your own sky, and within seconds it does it automatically.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's crazy what it's.
I like adding, like if it's an image that needs a little extra, I like adding skies if I don't have clouds or something. I'm not opposed to that. I think that's fine. It's the other stuff, like don't create a waterfall in the background if it's not there.
Yeah, it doesn't make some sense.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess I just contradicted myself with the sky and the clouds, but I don't know. I guess I'm just partial to, I need a little cloud here and there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, like if it enhances the photo and what you're already like thinking, the vision, I think there's no problem. But I think if you're just creating something like from scratch from AI, then there's like, it's almost like, because AI is based off like, technology where it just pulls things from like the web, right? Like for example, ChatGPT. I'm not sure if you've heard of that, but basically, let's say you want to create like a blog about, like something about cameras. You just type in like a couple of sentences, it'll create a blog for you.
So for writers,
for writers too. I mean, but I've also used it to kind of get inspiration, like, for example, like captions on Instagram. I just kind of ask, I type in like what the image is, and then it'll create captions for me. But what I find is it's too over the top. Like it doesn't
sound like you.
It doesn't sound like me. Yeah, it's like so like sometimes it's so catered to that image that it's like too much in my opinion.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but it's amazing what it can do because literally it'll type like a whole blog for you, like 2 pages worth of blog.
Oh,
It's crazy what it can do.
oh
now.
wow.
Yeah.
You know, at first when it first came out, I was a bit intimidated, thinking like, oh my gosh, where's our community gonna fall under now? But honestly, you touched something right now that AI can never take away the hustle that we've put into photography. Like we will always have that, and I believe that is a good foundation to have if we want to succeed, because eventually, this AI, you're going to come to a point where the client's going to be like, well, I'd like to, get something like this. And you're like, oh, how did I do that? What did I tell AI to do for me?
Right.
It's like, I think the foundation is important, and that can never be taken away from us. The education can never be taken away from us. Yeah, okay, a robot is going to be a lot smarter, whatever. I'm not intimidated by it.
Yeah, because I had a conversation with other photographers about this, and like for example, like let's talk about like wedding photography, because there are software out now where it can literally edit based off your style, like
Aftershoot.
Yeah, Aftershoot, Imagine AI, those two right there. I mean, literally, you submit like your proofs within 5 minutes, it's done editing. So, like, what's your thoughts on that? Like, photographers able to finish the work within like maybe 5 to 10 minutes and deliver it to the client. Do you think that clients will not value our work because, AI is doing all the work? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm going to be partial to Aftershoot because I am an ambassador for them. And I've never used the other company, so I don't know. However, Aftershoot has not only saved me hours of time to spend with, my husband, for example, because that was one of our little issues, is that I would spend a lot of time editing or culling a project. And now I can just plug in, the shoot right after I saved it into Aftershoot, and it'll cull it within minutes.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And if there's tools to enhance your lifestyle to save you time, and you can take that valued time with your family or with another project or just anything, you're saving time. And that's the one thing that editing takes. It's so time consuming. Or culling, especially for weddings, because you have, some photographers do thousands of pictures. And for this system to, do it for you in minutes or, half an hour, whatever the case is, that's priceless to me. I believe that in this case, this AI that is, working the system, I think it's amazing because you don't get time back.
Yeah.
And who knows, this could be saving some marriages right now. Because, the time that the post-processing takes from a photo shoot, I don't do as many weddings as I mentioned before. My photo shoots, maybe I'll have 400 or 500 pictures. So the culling is literally like in 4 or 5 minutes.
That's amazing.
And it categorizes everything nicely. It even, you can make it select your sneak peek of maybe like 10, 15, 20, 30 images. So you'll have it ready to go. Of course, it's unedited. So I'm still in the portion of creating my editing AI profile.
Gotcha.
Because you do have to submit so many edited pictures for it to recognize the editing. However, Esteban Gil, he is amazing at this Aftershoot thing. He's also an ambassador. By the way, I'm a big fan of his work as well. He posted a before and after as far as edits. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
If it's your style, it's
still your style.
It's your style. Yeah. It's like you did the edits first. Now you have a assistant machine system doing it for you. So I don't I think it's amazing. The turnaround time that you can deliver your albums or, for your client, I think that's one of those comments that I like to get is that, wow, your turnaround time is great. Because I try to be quick about my turnaround time. And I think clients like that. They don't want to wait for their pictures.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. So let me play devil's advocate, though, a little bit. So, because, generally for weddings or even like projects, it sometimes it can take up to months, right, to deliver the final album or the gallery. So do you think that eventually a lot of photographers start using the editing tools for AI to deliver photos faster, do you think that customers or clients will think that, oh, since they can deliver faster and they're using AI, do you think that they're going to devalue our cost or price for photo shoots?
Well, I don't think that they hired you for the turnaround time. I think that they hired you for the image that they like that you are presenting, that you're going to be giving them. So, I don't know that there may be that client that's like, oh, this is way too quick.
Right.
But what groom or bride is going to be like, whoa, you delivered my album way too quick. I don't want to see my pictures yet.
Right.
So I don't see that being an issue. If anything, I think I see it more as a benefit. As far as them devaluing our work, that's not up to them. That's if you let them devalue you or not, right?
Right.
I know my value. You know your value. If the client decides, oh, no, I don't think they're worth it because they gave me my pictures too soon. Like that doesn't make sense to me.
Right. Yeah.
But I think the value comes from how you feel about your work. And we have to portray that to them. It's like, look at, what I have for you. Like, you hired me for a reason. And the client will always ask, well, how long is your turnaround time? And for weddings, I generally will give an 8-week, 8 to 12 weeks, depending on how busy I am with my projects. But in my case, since I'm not doing weddings every month, like I do deliver my,
sooner, right?
Yeah, a lot sooner. And now with the culling, and after shoot, it's quick. Sometimes I feel a little bit of like, wow, is it too quick to already give them their album? Like what But I think they like that. And a lot of the, what do you call it? The comments that they leave, afterwards. I like to hear them say like, wow, your turnaround time was so quick. That's amazing. And I think people like that, you know?
I'm on the side with you. I do believe that turnaround time, if you can deliver it much quicker, especially for weddings, I think. Especially for weddings, because if you wait too long, it's like they almost forget about their wedding, right? And they can't like reminisce about their wedding in the photos. And so for me, I am on the agreement that if photographers are able to deliver quicker, it's adding value to from your perspective, because Mike took extra like effort to deliver it faster to me, as long as the quality is the same, right? Now if you're doing it so fast, then it's like, and then you're adding photos that doesn't portray what you're delivering usually, like your standard, then okay, that may be an issue. But I think if the quality is consistent, I don't see a problem delivering it much quicker.
Absolutely not. No, it's still, obviously I'm not going to deliver an album without looking at it first. I still go through everything,
exactly,
and make sure that everything's right. Because, it's, in some cases, the lighting might be different in the same room.
Exactly.
And, your edit might have worked for this image, but not for the next one. So there's still little, tinkering around that I do to make sure that every image is how I want them to see. But I think it's an absolute value in our perspective.
Awesome. Yeah, I 100% agree. And we'll see how this technology develops over the years, because I've been hearing like some new technology where it can literally just edit everything for you without even like, because I know with Imagine AI and with Aftershoot, you still have to provide it like enough images to learn. But yeah, we'll see what happens the next few years. But let's get back to you. Like, I know you're a very busy person. You do workshops, you do mentoring. So like, what's your kind of like rest and recover like program? I say, like, what do you do besides just working on photography, or what do you do for like self-care?
Okay, so well, my relationship with God is very important in my life, and that takes up a little, well, not a little, it takes up some of my time, my free time. But that's kind of how I start my day, is by, being thankful for the day and just for all the opportunities and blessings that we continuously get. So that fills, most of my day, actually. I shouldn't say only my mornings. I mean, I talk to him all the time. Maybe that's who I'm talking to all the time. I don't know. However, my husband and I, we love to camp. So we have a lot of project or vacations planned throughout the year. And we're both self-employed. He's a carpenter by trade, an amazing master craftsman. So we have that opportunity to plan out our vacations, and then we also have a new grandbaby. Her name's Millie.
Oh, wow.
Millie Jane. So now, we try to spend, some time with her and, our kids. He also loves to barbecue and smoke everything. So we spend time, he'll spend time creating different barbecue sauces and different types of marinades. And so that takes up some time. And the reason I bring it up is because it happens every week. Like, we smoke and create, recipes and stuff like that. And other than that, I love spending time with my friends, and my family lives in Vegas, so I don't get to see them often. However, I just got back from vacation where, they were able to come and hang out at the lake with us. I try to spend as much time as I can with my husband. I pride myself on trying to be a good wife as well. And so, yeah, I mean, your typical, go to the movies, dinner, date nights.
Absolutely.
Or lazy days just watching 90 Day Fiancé.
Those are great, actually. But yeah, it's amazing how like photography it's a great, for me, because I do it full time as well. It's a great like industry to be in, I think, because again, if you're passionate about photography, you can make a great income, and you don't technically have to work every day. You can make your own schedule, take clients as you wish, right? You can make as much money as you want, depending on your work-life balance. And the cool thing about, I think, photography is like you're the person creating work. Because I used to my background was like in working in an office. So, and I always knew like I don't want to be in an office all day. Like I want to be out meeting people, working with clients, and I just don't like being stuck in that place, in a routine spot, being stuck in an office all day. So being a wedding photographer, it's amazing because you can travel to different locations and meet so many amazing people. I'm sure you met hundreds of people that inspires you. And it's always good to like just collaborate with other vendors as well, and it's just exciting, I think. It's an exciting time for creators because we have an amazing platform to share our work through Facebook, Instagram. I see you post like on MagMOD's Facebook almost every week, I think, which is amazing. But yeah, like, so moving forward, like, I know you told me about like your kind of like goal for the next year is to like help teach other photographers, mentor other photographers. Do you see yourself still doing that in the like next 10 years? Like, is that what you're kind of really focusing on?
Absolutely. Yeah, as I mentioned, I'm not getting any younger, and I would love to be able to pass on what I've learned, I mean, I'm still learning. There's so much more to learn, and I'm not, a master at everything I do. But whatever techniques I've picked up, I would love to be able to share that. Like, just, there's so many, kids that just want to be inspired, and why not?
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So, do you have any workshops coming up? I think you have one in August, right?
I do. I have a workshop in August. It'll be at the Loft 84 in downtown Riverside. And I'll have 3-4 models, about 8 different looks. It's going to be really exciting. This one's a little bit bigger than what I would normally do. There's a lot more being put into it, and lots of surprises. And I've been blessed with so many sponsors for this workshop. Lots of giveaways and fun stuff, and a ton of opportunities to, have something different for your portfolio.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And it's so Loft 84, is it going to be like in the ballroom like setting in that area, or like different areas of the venue?
I have free range to use the loft, the bridal room, the groom room, and probably the big,
Ballroom.
Yeah, the one downstairs, what do they call that one?
Oh, the mezzanine, like.
Yeah, that one's a little that one will be a little bit tougher,
It's
just
kinda
because
tight,
yeah. Yeah, there's only a few spots left for signups.
Oh, wow.
But it's going to be a great opportunity, especially if you if you're not into creative, portrait, if you don't do it all the time.
Yeah.
This is a great opportunity because I do have some really cool surprises for
Oh,
only
wow.
those that are going to be there.
Wow, amazing. So how can people connect with you, and how can they find out, like, if you want to share your website, your Instagram account?
On Instagram, you can follow me on Ellie Burgueno Photography. That'll bring me right up. Facebook, the same, Ellie Burgueno Photography, and my website is the same, Ellie Burgueno Photography as well.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure, Ellie, having you on the podcast. Maybe we'll have you on maybe in the next couple months to see how those workshops, come about. But yeah, thank you so much. We will post all your links on the comments below, in the description below. So if you want to follow her, definitely attend one of our workshops. I personally want to. It's just I'm also a busy photographer, so if it aligns, I would love to join. But yeah, she's an amazing resource for, like, generally in any photography. I think she has a wide range of skills that can help you in regardless of what niche you're in, right? So thank you so much, Ellie.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate
I
it.
appreciate it. All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Bye.